And now we're going from one aspect of Canadian insanity to another. I've never met either Katie or Carrie before. I've seen some interviews. I've been boning up in as much as I can on the story of the mass culling of ostriches in British Columbia. And so we've got Katie, who I believe is the daughter of the owner of the farm, and Carrie, who I believe is the lawyer representing them. And they are on, I don't want to say a ticking time bomb. It's rather a ticking clock, because there's a very, very hard deadline coming up on February 1st, from what I understand. If you don't know this story, you're going to know it as well. I've been catching up. Rebel News has covered it. I'm going to share the link to Rebel News' website where you can sign the petition, or put pressure on politicians, because this has to stop. I'm going to bring in Katie, and I'm going to bring in Carrie, and I'm going to go on the bottom just like this so that it's symmetrical. Ladies, how does this go? The battle. I know a bit about what's going on in this story, but I think you're going to need to fill everybody in, and I don't know who the best is going to be to fill it in. Katie, you are the daughter of the owners of your parents own the farm.
My mom and her business partner both, they own Universal Ostrich Farms, and my mom started Universal Ostrich Farms, Karen Esperson, and we obviously, for as long as I've been alive, I guess I'm 35 years of my years I've been alive. I've been a part of the ostriches' lives, and they've been part of ours.
Where is the farm located, or where was it located? Because they're my temporary farm right now where they're being held.
No, they're being held here in their own home, captive. They're as safe as can be in their own quarantined area. They have a beautiful pen that is wildlife fenced. So that's where they are, and that's where they have been, and they haven't been moved. We are in Edgewood, British Columbia. We're about an hour and a half away from any major city. And we live in a small town, Edgewood, which is about a population of 600 people, actually.
Okay, and this ostrich farm it has been in the family for a while. Was it originally meat farming, or what was the purpose of the farm originally?
So originally, my grandfather and my grandmother actually started getting into them, and they were in Alberta. And my grandfather, Esperson, was the president of the Alberta Ostrich Association at the time, years ago. And they came in, and they were kind of a novelty. Everybody got into these amazing fancy ostriches, and they were overpriced at that time, and they just were something really cool, but there was no market for them. So farms quickly learned, we have all these really expensive ostriches, but we don't know how to make any money off them. So a lot of farms at that time started to just fold and get out of it. And my mom, when my grandparents got out of it, my mom got into it, and my mom and dad at the time. And my mom, so she's just spearheaded and been a pioneer in the industry for over the years. At the beginning, it was about learning them, education on their hatching, creating an industry, and the industry was kind of around meat. So it was going to be a healthier meat. It was going to be healthier for the planet. They are very lean, red meat, and it was all about that. And then we started to change our focus, though, and see the amazing abilities that this ostrich has to do really good things for humanity by just using their eggs, and things that we could do with their amazing natural immune system and their ability to conquer environmental challenges that they're faced with. And so that has been the main focus of the farm for the last 3 years, is promoting natural immunity. And really, we're all born with antibodies, and these ostrich have been on the earth for 21 million years, is the latest Struthio fossil found. And so you can imagine that these guys have stayed on this planet for a long time for a given reason. So that's our main focus now out here, is just the robust immune system.
Okay, interesting. And so no farming, no human consumption of the meat or eggs any longer.
No, correct. Yeah, very correct.
And do you do guided tours? Is it like open to the public? There's an ostrich farm, at least there was one, and I think it's still there in Montreal, or outside of Montreal when I lived in Quebec. And I don't want to name it because I don't want to bring down any federal agents on them. I used to go there and get ostrich eggs and ostrich meat. It's delicious. It's like filet mignon, but with less fat. The eggs themselves are amazing. But they took people on tours. They were, it was like sort of a petting zoo type farm. Do you? Is it open to the public? Your mom's farm?
Yeah, it has been. And it's probably one of her favorite things to do. And even us, like me, when I'm here, and if somebody comes and wants a tour, I would do the tour. It's probably one of the favorite things to do here is educate people about how fun they are, the personalities that they have, and how they are like our family members. There's young ones that we don't, that we don't have as, we're gaining that connection because they're like a little brother. But with all the old ones, we have some here that are 34 years old. 33 years old. We have so many in their 20s. And so it's fun to take people and their kids or people driving by in tourism, show them up close these big, beautiful animals that are 300 pounds with the most beautiful big eyes that just look into your soul. And they have personalities, they have hairdos, they are unique and silly, and they also have a very beautiful pecking order. And that being said, that's my mom, Karen Esperson, and her business partner. They can go out there and they've earned their trust over 35 years. We have ostriches that watch out for them because we have bratty teenagers in there. So there's the older ones that will go and they'll protect them and keep those ones away from my mom when she's feeding. And they have this just beautiful thing to show people. And yes, so it is open to the public. It's one of our favorite things to do is educate.
I remember reading, and it's a fact, you'll tell me if it's wrong, that in a fight between an ostrich and a lion, it's 50-50 because ostriches can disembowel anybody and anything with their talon leg kicks, and their legs are just massive tree trunks of muscle and lethality.
They kick out and they drag their nail down. And that's their fighting mechanism. So they would punch out, drag down, and they can use that nail in the wild to disembowel a lion. Yeah.
All right, so I don't get
too. Yeah, but they live to 75 years old too. So we'll get away from that fact and say these guys have a lot of years left in them, and that's what we're fighting for. Is a lot of lives, a lot of years left.
You've got 400 of them on the farm.
Correct.
Okay, now I guess we bring in Carrie. You're an attorney, correct?
No, actually, and I want to make that very, very clear. Okay. I get into enough trouble, let alone with the law societies. Please. No, I'm litigation manager for the family and the liaison. As you can imagine, there's so much information. Right now, the lawyers do not have time to be doing interviews because we're trying to get into court to get a stay of execution, if you will, with these animals for at least 30 days so we can get all of our, I was going to say ducks in the row. There's just too many, puns available, run afoul of the law and such in this case. But at the end of the day, there is a deadline, and these birds are scheduled to be executed on February 1st. So
explain how we even got. And by the way, my apologies because I thought I saw litigator, not litigation liaison, but I still would have made the same mistake. So not an attorney, Carrie Simpson, but she stayed at the Holiday Inn. Yes, that's probably a good quality to not have.
I would agree with you.
So how does it come to be? Like, how do you get in trouble? How does it come where they say we got to kill them all?
Well, I've been watching the comments here, and I got a few minutes of the show that you just did. I think Canadians need to realize there's something very nefarious happening in this nation. And at some point in time, and maybe this is it, maybe it's going to take the 400 ostriches to bring to the attention of what's happening between Big Pharma, the World Health Organization, our political people being in cahoots, making money off of this and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of tentacles to this animal. But in this case, we've been watching the culling of animals, and it's been very strategic over the years. So back in 2012 in Ontario, for instance, there was a herd of Shropshire sheep, and the Canadian Food Industry Agency. So they're the ones that have their own special act. They have a president. They are under our Minister of Agriculture. So there's two pieces of legislation that are very paramount in this, the CFIA Act and the Animal Health Act. They've been, culling animals for no reason for a long time. There seems to be this stamping out mentality. So in the case of the sheep, there was concern over scabies. And of course, the only way you can test for scabies is to kill the animal in the post-mortem test. So once they had a kill order, A group called the Animal Peace Corps, if I recall correctly, kidnapped the sheep and put them in hiding. Regrettably, it wasn't too long before those hidden sheep were found and killed, and they were found not one of them had scabies. But the people who kidnapped the sheep were then charged under this act, the Canadian Food Inspection Act, because if you get in the way of these agents, you can be charged with conspiracy, for instance, to defraud a public service, obstruction of a CFI agent. So there's a lot of power here without a lot of accountability. And, you know, that power without accountability is a very dangerous component to any nation, especially Canadians who value freedom and liberty. And, you know, the government overreach can only go so far. And we've seen this tendency, whether it was through the COVID situation, this situation, and in a lot of other situations, you know, where my interest was this is last year I wrote a report on premise identity. So many provinces have now moved and created laws that every animal with livestock meat protein specifically has to be registered and accounted for. So those people with 4 chickens in their backyard in the city, they must now register those animals. The government wants to know every animal that you could possibly eat and where it's located. In Alberta, they're assigning units, so they're limiting people on what they can have. So this whole control mechanism that we see very well, you know, directed through the 2030 agenda is coming very much to fruition here. So this is part of that. It is the psychological conditioning of create fear over the avian flu, kill all the animals to show people how dangerous it is, when in fact, you know, avian flu has been here for a very long time. And yet killing healthy animals, I would hope we are advanced enough as a society now to know that there are other mechanisms available to test healthy animals and save them from being executed in this fashion.
Well, and also just to state the obvious, ostriches are flightless birds, so it's not exactly like they're migratory birds that are going to go infect other flocks or infect other I don't know if you call them herds of birds.
Can I just address that, because that's one of the key things here. We have the opportunity to have a living laboratory right at the midst for the whole globe to watch. These birds are not contagious as far as being close to other commercial poultry. They're isolated in this little place called Edgewood, BC. We have statistical and scientific background already on these animals. We have DNA from them. We know them. We can study immunity here. We can learn. I mean, everybody knows by now vaccinations are not the way forward. They don't work. If they do work, they only work for a certain amount of time. Why aren't we taking this opportunity, if we really care about people health, animal health, the health of nations, you know, or do we care about making big pharma rich, politicians rich, their stakeholders rich? What is really our motive here? Because if our motive is global health and well-being, then this is a perfect opportunity to study whether or not natural immunity has a future. Can we contain those antigens? Can we isolate them and pass them on to younger birds to see whether or not they build natural immunity through that? There's so much opportunity here to do something good. And this government is saying, we don't want that to happen. We want to silence these people. We want to break these people. We want to kill this experiment, meaning the execution of these 400 now healthy birds. Let me emphasize the birds, the population there, we haven't had any deaths. There is a healthy population there now.
Well, and let's back it up all the way to the beginning. How do you guys even get on the radar for this government intervention? Do they from what I understand, 2 ostriches did die a while back. I don't know how long ago, and they were infected, or is that wrong?
That's right. Yeah. So that's correct. But we'll go back to this all started mid-December, but we're going to back up. I'm going to go quickly to 2020. 2020, we had some illnesses here and symptomatic. And as everybody knows, as farmers in the industry, we will all go through some, you know, different things through our herds. And it wasn't alarming though this time, because in 2020 we had symptoms. We reached out to our vet. Our vet right away said, okay, let's do some tissue samples. We got some tissue samples off to him immediately because at that same time we had some deaths in 2020. And
Deaths of ostriches, not deaths of
yeah.
people.
No,
Okay.
no, sorry. Yeah, let's be very clear. Deaths
No,
of the
no.
ostriches, mortalities in the animal.
Now
Yeah.
I want to understand this is avian flu back in 2020 in a couple of ostriches.
So no, not at all. So I'm going to get
Okay.
to that. So 2020, we take the tissue sample. Tissue sample goes off to our vet, comes back to us as positive for Pseudomonas, which is a bacteria, not avian flu. So we're like, how did we get that? And the vet was like, I mean, it could live in the soil. It could come off a tourist's hand, and it could have got to the birds. So at that time, we started doing some of our own treatments. Our herd, they started to gain an immunity to whatever was going on. We didn't lose any more ostriches, and they got healthy. They were fine. Speed up now to 2024, mid-December. And now my mom, Karen Esperson, and at the farm here, we're like, these are the same symptoms. Like these symptoms are just like we had in 2020. Let's call our vet. And we did start to have some mortality through our ostriches in mid-December. And so, but we did notice that these symptoms were a little bit more aggressive for sure. So we called our vet, did our due diligence. Through the holidays, we had to leave a message. We were waiting for him to get back to us. And on the 28th, an anonymous tip goes in supposedly to CFIA. CFIA calls and says, we have an anonymous tip that you guys have, there's somebody sure you have avian flu. And then so we start explaining the symptoms to CFIA and said like, okay, but these are the symptoms. Now we've had some that are symptomatic, but they're better now. So, and then CFIA said, absolutely, this does not sound like avian flu, because if animals get avian flu, they die pretty quickly. They succumb to the illness. So can you mind if we just come out when you have a couple fresh samples? If you have a couple more mortalities, can we come out and do some samples? And my mom, absolutely. Yeah, please, let's see what this is. And because we want to contain it. At that time, we'd already started our own protocols. I want to be clear. We're a farm with a lot of history and knowledge. So we already start, any ones that are kind of not feeling well, we start moving them into their own area, take care of them. CFIA, we call CFIA when we had 2 new samples. So these are 2 new. We had mortality before that, like in that time frame. So I'm going to be very clear. We have had more deaths than 2. Some people are saying that there's some confusion there. So I want to clear that up. The CFIA took samples off 2 deceased. So I
got to ask, how many died?
In total, and I want to make so we were almost 500 at that time, right? 480 something. We've had 69 in total symptomatic to this virus, have succumbed to their illness. But painting a picture, if you're a large poultry farm and stuff, you can have there could be a mink that comes in and takes 60 out in a night, right? So this is a large animal, so it sounds maybe a little bit, I don't know, larger, but it's 69 have succumbed to this illness. But there's also over 35 that have been treated by my mom and have they absolutely would not even know that they're sick, that they've been sick. So
the 69 that died, what was it confirmed as the avian flu, or was it still as of yet undetermined?
Well, no.
So I'm going to go there. Yeah, I was going to get there. So they took the samples off these 2 ostrich that had laid there for 16 hours waiting for them. They came, they took PCR tests on each dead carcass. They took it orally and they took a rectal. And at the same time, this is very important, we asked, can we get some of those samples done on our healthy birds, the ones that are alive still? And they said, no, that's not possible. So they leave, and we are about an hour and a half away from a city. So I want to paint that picture too. They leave here at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They have to drive an hour and a half back to Vernon. At 2 o'clock, they said that we'll find out within 24 to 36 hours. The next day by 2 o'clock, we got a call from the Abbotsford lab which is, I would say about 6 hours away from here, 7 hours away from where we are. 2:00 in the afternoon the next day, we get a call saying we tested positive off those PCR tests for H5N1, and we are now under quarantine, and we are to be all depopulated. Every animal on this property is to be killed.
Okay, depopulated is culled.
Killed, yeah.
Okay, now and on like the number, it sounds like it's a big number, but I mean, I've never been on a farm. Animals get sick. There's like when kids in daycare get sick. I mean, poo kids don't die from a cold, but animals and birds get colds just like any other animal, and it spreads among farm animals.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I want another really important thing to tell people and paint the picture in people's heads of our farm. There's a huge area of our ostrich, and we have in one section, a big field is all of our older birds. Now, all of our older ostrich are 2020 older. And then in one side of our farm, it's the younger guys because they don't have as much strength to fight the big guys. And we kind of give them a little bit of time to grow up and be able to handle those punches and kicks and fights for pecking order. So it was very strange enough. Not one ostrich that has been here before 2020 has been symptomatic. Not one death of over 300 and something of our elder birds, which would raise a concern, the alarm, not a concern. It's the alarm of, oh my God, this is fascinating. These animals have obviously gained a herd immunity years ago to something that they're being exposed to now. And so our younger population, 2020 and younger, are the ones that we have really had those, have had the symptoms with. But those ones now have hit their immunity. So we have no more deaths symptomatically. There's no more deaths with our younger ones. They have hit their herd immunity, natural immunity. And when they took those 2 tests, those PCR tests, at no time through this have they taken tissue samples. They've taken no other samples. They came here in my eyes. They came and took off 2 dead animals. So there's no risk of them staying alive. They took tests and they left here with something that they tested for something exactly what they wanted to find.
Well,
and they went.
So 69 died. Did they only take tests from 2?
2 dead ones, not even the 2.
And more importantly, the gold standard of this kind of test would be to take tissue samples. Like, why didn't they take these dead birds and conduct an autopsy? Like, only 2 birds and this, amateur test of swabbing the throat and the rectal area and then putting it through a PCR test, which for most of our research now says they're not to be used as diagnostic testing. More than that, for avian flu, all tests are supposed to then go to the lab in Manitoba, which is run by the World Health Organization for Animal Health. I know, shocking probably to you and your audience, for confirmation. And we have no evidence whatsoever that that's been done.
So it's not the case that they tested other birds and they did not show positive for avian flu. So they tested 2 and only 2 anal and mouth swabs of a deceased animal with a PCR test, conclude avian flu, pursuant to which now you have to slaughter the other 400 and change who are still alive.
Exactly.
And then really important too is like these animals are, we've asked continuously. We said, can we please just get a reputable vet, approved vet? Can we get them to come and take a blood sample? Take a sample ourselves so we know for future, say, what we're dealing with. And we just actually talked, which was scary enough. We just talked to a vet and she was like, absolutely, I would come down and do this for you. So we could then approach CFIA. Before we were able to even approach CFIA, she got a call saying not one sample will leave that farm. We got an email on a Saturday from the government highlighting that if one test or any treatment or testing is performed over there, that we are subject to $200,000 fine and 6 months in jail.
So we should say at this point too, there is a team of researchers, of immunologists at UBC that has come together. We've been just so amazed, grateful, and overwhelmed with the amount of support from experts in the fields of immunology, testing animals, the vets. Everybody's willing to help. Everybody's willing to, how do you want us to transport the samples? We'll follow your protocols. Just let our labs, and you can imagine the labs at UBC probably know the protocols for, containing pathogens, right? And yet the agents for CFIA say not one sample, and there's no appeal. There's no appeal.
So this is a purely administrative body, a purely administrative procedure right now. There is no, you're trying to get a court involved to enjoin the order of the CFIA. CFIA, it's the Canadian Food and
Inspection
Agency. It's like the Canada's FDA.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's sort of maybe like the FDA or USDA. Yeah. It's okay. There's no court proceedings other than your petition now to have this order enjoined. So CFIA comes in and they issue an order. They say slaughter them all by February 1st.
Okay. No, there's a few more curious. Well, there's one more curious caveat in this. So there is the ability to have your farm declared a distinct unit. So that application was made, and Katie will tell you about what that form's like. And on January 2nd, the family got basically your birds have valuable genetics. So either they're valuable genetics, and I forget what the other specialty breed or something. So valuable genetics here, because we have science at play, like literally a living laboratory. So they said, yes, you're valuable genetics. So everybody kind of went, oh, good. Okay. 6 days later, 8 days later, they get another letter saying, no, you do not qualify for valuable genetics. So we're not sure what happened within that 8-day period, but we'll find out. But suddenly these birds are now, bring on the execution and no appeal.
Yeah, it's really important to know. So we were given, so it's called an exemption package. So we could fill out an exemption package, a Unit 1 exemption package. So we could fill out these forms and we could, throw in a Hail Mary and hope that these forms will make our birds exempt. When we received the Unit 1 exemption package, each question in there is for commercial poultry farms. And it lists in there ducks, turkeys, geese, and chickens. And my mom, we're reading all the questions, and my mom is like, I can't answer any of these questions, honestly. Like, I can't, none of these pertain to what we do, who we are, what animal they are. And so my mom, we got a hold of the caseworker, both of us were there, and the caseworker said, if you don't fill out this package, you're automatically denied. You're in non-compliance, and you're not going to be given any exemption. So then my mom said, well, I can't answer yes to a lot of these. They're going to be no, because they don't pertain. So she said, I'm telling you right now, this is one of the most important steps. If you do not fill this out, you do not qualify for exemption. So my mom, we're reading through it and going, no, no, no. And a couple days later, January 10th, we get a notice. You failed to meet any of the standards or the questions, and you are set to be called February 1st. And in there too, it says right underneath, it says this is not subject to appeal. So they take away our rights to even question that. And then right below that, sickly enough, they send us a mental health link and say we're going to need it. And then, that's a whole new one. I
just want to ask how do you euthanize an ostrich?
Okay. So this is it's just more. Sorry, this is more sick. They expect that these healthy animals out there now, that my mom, Karen, and her business partner, Dave, they're supposed to go out there and humanely look each one in their big, beautiful eyes some of them that they've had for 34 years, 35 years. And they're supposed to kill them by their own hands. So they expected them to go out there, do their dirty work, kill 400 of them by their own hands, and dispose of them by themselves by February 1st. So they gave them the regulations of how they want the pits dug. So by regulation, they want a pit dug 9 meters deep. They want it 60 meters away from the next pit. You're allowed 2.5 tons of ostrich or animal per pit. And so they are expecting, that works out to 40 pits with, 10 ostriches each, 60 meters apart. And they want them all buried back in our hayland. They haven't asked us where there's any wells, where there's any springs. There's natural springs back there. So they're so worried about this avian flu, but they're okay with us putting supposedly 400 such unhealthy animals that they came in hazmat suits in back in our hayfield, that all that soil can get leaked anywhere. And we have grizzlies, we have cougars out here. Those are some of our environmental battles with our animals. And they're going to dig these up. So where are we making any sense at all here? They come in their hazmat suits and they're okay with us disposing of them and trusting us that they're just going in these pits.
Katie, I have to ask, not morbid curiosity, logistically, are you supposed to shoot them with a shotgun, or are you supposed to cut their heads off? And I'm not trying to be it's not a chicken.
No. However, they don't know. They don't know. And I'm going to be honest, we don't know. Biggest question to the world is, how do you go out there to your 400 cattle, your 400 goats, your 400 sheep, and you look at them and they're eating normal, and they're acting normal, they're being normal. And off 2 tests, you're supposed to go out there by yourself and you're supposed to kill them. There's no humane way to kill 400 healthy animals. So slitting throats,
And you're supposed to then get in an excavator and dig up 9 meters deep, 40 different pits. Or how many pits would it be?
It would be 40.
40 different pits to bury the carcasses of 400 ostriches, 9 meters deep. And I presume, what level of topsoil must there be? I mean, they can't let you have a foot of topsoil. How many meters of topsoil?
I think it's 2 meters.
Make you slaughter your own animals, which and it's not done the way a vet euthanizes a dog with a barbutal injection. There's only a couple of ways to take to kill an animal the size of an ostrich that doesn't, and then they want you to dispose of the 400 bodies.
So it's really important. They don't know the ostrich. So let me just put out there, you can't walk in there with them. They're extremely dangerous, as you stated about the lion. They have to know you. So there's B, a gunshot goes off. We're going to have ostriches caught in fences. They are a very nervous animal too. And if they're out and something's happening, they have a sixth sense. They know when something's happening. They're a smart animal. Doesn't matter. Every animal knows in their heart when things aren't right. And when we're supposed to, so really, really sick story, is there was a CTV journalism done not that long ago in November, and it's been since taken down since I mentioned it to CFIA. And I have the screenshots of it, that it's a very good read and everybody should read it. Inside Canada's chaotic response to the avian flu. Now, in that article, they do an interview on a family, and it's been public, so I'm sure I can say it's a Sheely family. And these poor people had an exotic bird farm, and they came in and said, "You have avian bird flu." I don't know exactly how that got laid out, but they had it. They give them 2 options. One, you're going to watch your birds die a horrible death. They paint this picture, and you do not get compensated. 2, you walk away. You let us bring in a third-party contractor killer. We will kill them all for you, and you will walk away with compensation. So this family, nicely, they want this little family, like a wholehearted family, little farm like us, walk away from their animals that they've loved for their pets. And they came home to blood up the walls, blood all over the ground, heads of their exotic birds left behind, some of their birds not even fully dead. And it was traumatizing for this family. And I explained that. I said, I'm reading things like this, I said, to CFIA, because they said to us, if we don't kill them ourselves, they're going to bring a third-party contractor in here to kill all of our animals for us. And I said, how do we have any trust in you? Like, look at these articles, look at this. And 3 hours later, that article was not to be found.
It is it's the most it's beyond inhumane. Now I'm just trying to steel man things here. The concern is, even though they're flightless birds, other migratory birds can come through and pick up their feces and whatever, so they can spread it that way.
But you raise a good point.
Another good point.
Yeah, when the agents came out from CFIA, again, if they were really interested in finding out the science behind how are birds getting infected and such, why didn't they take samples from the water? Why didn't they take samples from the feces left over from the wild ducks?
Well,
why didn't they test the...
Just to highlight the absurdity, because if that is the concern, to make you put these carcasses in pits where they will get dug up, it will go elsewhere, doesn't resolve the problem if they are in fact contaminated to begin with. You're currently not open to the public, not doing tours right now, obviously.
No. So we take our protocols very serious. I want that out to the public. If there was something here, the last thing we want is to make anybody unsafe. But two, their tests, and so when the symptoms came to the farm, it was due to 300 to 500 mallard ducks because of our abnormally warm winter. They landed in the pens. And they started going and eating out of their buckets and eating out of their feed buckets and then pooping in their feed buckets. And so the ostriches, the young ones who didn't have that immunity, they were starting to get sick. When CFIA was here in our kitchen, they came up to our house and, had a visit at our kitchen table. I said, what are we doing about the mallard ducks that are going to fly away? The migratory risk of these animals that are just going to the next farm and the next farm and the next farm. Killing our 400 is not going to solve this problem. And they said, nothing. That's wildlife. This is absurd. What would you do? Go kill every migratory bird in the world?
Well,
and I said, right?
No,
so
that's what the websites say to do. Like, you got to cull them. You got to quarantine off the entire area. Any migratory birds, trap and kill them. I'm just looking up in real time. This is what it's.
So then we said, hey, don't we need to try to stabilize the migratory risk of the flight of the migratory birds and their major flight paths? And anyways, they're trying, in my view, they're stamping out natural immunity. They have a stamping out policy, and that's what they call it. One is sick, they're all dead. So they're not stamping out a virus. They're stamping out natural immunity. And we need to be really afraid, because now Carrie can go into that's the next 400 cows down the road. That's your 400 goats. That's your 400 sheep. And this is where we stand together and we come together and say it stops here. These 400 ostriches are just standing up for a way better, bigger cause. And that is, they're saying, if you're not going to let us do independent testing to prove it wasn't Pseudomonas again, then you know what? They're coming. This is a bigger agenda. $590 million got allotted to Moderna for you to roll up your sleeve and take another bird flu vaccine. They're afraid that now that they've said that we are so at risk with avian flu, but our ostriches are all getting better and healthy. That goes against everything they're trying to put fear out there in the world.
Well, I want to say our priest says, it seems like it's less about health, more about bankrupting a farm. No, to me, it's about creating the terror that they created in the early days of COVID, and say, look how there's one confirmed case in all of Canada, a British Columbia, was it a British Columbia kid?
Yeah.
One confirmed case of H5N1, a teenager in British Columbia. One
who had no link to any poultry farm or anything. So
they want and to slaughter 400 ostriches. Not for meat, I mean, that wouldn't be any easier, but at least it goes to sustenance. Is horrifying. They can say, look how serious this is. We're making progress. We got that one kid with H5N1, whatever. Now we get to slaughter all these chickens at the drop of of a hat. So you petitioned the courts now. I guess there's an emergency injunction or a provisional injunction.
We're hoping to get into court this week. Of course, you know, it was very much a challenge to find lawyers because nobody has really challenged this to the max. And I put a legal team together on this. I want this legislation governing this kind of tyranny and abuse of not only animals but of people to be brought into check. I mean, we all need animal health regulations, but they must be fair. Yeah. People must have confidence. This is what's happening now. Anybody with dead poultry will not be calling or going to their vet. I mean,
well, that was my question. Is like, first of all, I don't even know. Like, I don't own a farm. If a dog dies, I don't even know if I want to find out why the dog died. I would just cremate it and keep its ashes or his ashes. Yeah. Like if a chicken dies, if an ostrich dies, I mean, I guess from a responsible perspective, you go and you find out what it was to make sure it's not contagious. But true, who the hell in their right mind is going to get? I've always said it. The second you get any of the authorities involved, they get their claws in and they are the proverbial blob and they'll eat everything.
So the latest from them, and the world needs to hear, is they just came out a couple days ago and they did, or on Thursday or Friday, I think it was Friday, sorry. And they came and did protocol check. Well, no problem. We're happy to show you our very stringent protocols and how we're following.
Wait, Katie. They were coming 2 days before this visit. So bless all the people who are concerned. There was a nice little reception committee there waiting. Video record, is essential in this. So they didn't show up. Instead, they rescheduled. And they said, well, we'll let you know the morning of when we're coming out to visit. Now, remember, they have all power. They can go in, they can do whatever. So this time, though, they notified the RCMP because they feared for their safety.
Fortunately, that it brought to their attention that there was demonstrators and they were afraid for their safety. This cute little 20 people holding up signs with a coffee, smiling, and brought 2 RCMP cruisers.
The abusers pretending to be the victims. It's like as they are abusing you, it's like the judges. Well, we're getting threats online, so we need to put a gag order on the proceedings. No, first of all, the world needs to know what's going on, and if they express themselves peacefully in opposition to this wholesale slaughter, damn right you're going to meet some unhappy people.
So when they came out a couple days ago, they made us very aware that come February, this is a new level. Come February 1st, they wanted us to be very clear. They are allowed to come through our personal residence, and they're allowed to take any byproduct or any, in quotations, thing that they want out of our home to do with ostriches. So we better not get in the way. We better stand down. And they are coming through our house to take everything out of here. And they asked us, if we were working on healthy and natural immunity, and we had these awesome antibodies that could help other animals naturally, where would those be? And they actually asked us where they could find the COVID-19 antibodies that are natural. Are you kidding me? So you have authority to go through our personal residence, strip us of anything that has been our livelihood and our passion for over 35 years, and my mom is afraid of just her painted eggs. My mom is like, because she asked them, she said, do you mean like you could take my painted eggs that I've had people paint over 35 years? And they said, you bet.
It's like the peanut and I forget the raccoon's name. I think it was Fred out of New York State. No, it's like there is no private property. All they can do is manufacture a pretext, and they can seize and do whatever the hell they want with everything you own for your own safety.
Yeah.
You found a lawyer? Are you've got to get to court and get an injunction between now and February 1st?
Right. So I can tell you. So I received a lot of emails saying, Carrie, you need to help this family. You need to help this family. And I kind of looked at the facts and stuff and said, these 400 ostriches deserve to be saved. This is just outrageous what's gone here. So fortunately, my Rolodex is full of some very good lawyers. And I have to say, it took a day and a half of contacting everybody possible. But you know what? I've never seen anything like it. All these top legal firms, they said, Carrie, we don't have any experience because nobody's ever really challenged in a meaningful way with the funds necessary. And please, people, if everybody chips in, the legal cost for stopping this insanity is well worth the investment for everybody. This is about our freedom, our liberty on so many fronts. But even these big firms, they send out internal emails within their firms asking anybody and everybody to do it. And then I finally found somebody who I think is just going to be, a godsend in this case. And he says, actually, I am familiar with that act. I'm fighting it on compensation for another one. And he says, I get it. So he's put a legal team together. I've had now lawyers involved with maybe charter challenges, on this because there's some openings there. So I think we are going to use this opportunity to hopefully do a lot of good and set some important precedents. And most importantly, save those 400 beautiful, healthy birds, you guys. Avian flu kills everybody within 14 days after exposure. These birds are not dying.
No. Do you have a Give, Send, Go campaign?
You can go to Save Our Ostriches. So just think SOO, saveourostriches.com. And all the information, e-transfers are the best because we don't get dinged any points for their cut. So there's e-transfer information there. That's where you'll find the updates. There is also an email, and we will be putting out information. I will make sure that the minute we have the court date set, which we believe will be this week, I'll let you know for sure. And I'll put you and your wonderful audience on our list to make sure that those updates are given. So saveourostriches.com.
It's the website here that I'm looking at right now, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that'll take you directly to the information.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't wake up angry, but I probably will be going to bed angry. I'm going to share that link with everybody. And we'll keep doing what we can do.
And you know what? It's a righteous anger. And, I tell Canadians, because they're so conditioned to be nice and peacemakers, we are in a time now where Canadians have the right to be righteously angry. And I use righteous in there because what's happening to this nation, what's happening to every person is not what it is to live in a free and sovereign democratic nation. And this issue, whether it's 400 ostriches or, the coercion and manipulation that happened with getting Canadians to inject an experimental concoction into their arms. And I can give other example. At some point, we as Canadians must come together as the people and say enough is enough. We're going to have an election. You guys don't elect a politician. Elect a leader. Tell them what you want them to do and ask them how they are going to do it. We have to change the relationship here on so many fronts. But we are working hard to save 400 beautiful souls.
I keep saying the world is watching. This is honestly, the world is watching what's going to happen here, because then that opens the door to Pandora's box. It's the next door. It's the next door. It's the next door. So this is standing up.
My reaction, define F them, and if they want to come, first of all, exhaust all legal remedies. What are they're going to make you kill animals? Come, good luck. See what an ostrich does. And like you say, they're jittery animals. Like they move like what are those?
They run 65 miles an hour.
Dude, good
luck.
I defer to your better experiences whether or not they're intelligent. Whenever I've met them, I don't know if they're intelligent, but they're beautiful. I'm going to show a video afterwards. They're amazing and marvels of nature. But yeah, good. It is human abuse to even suggest to an owner that they have to go slaughter 400 ostriches.
Cruel and unusual treatment for them, what they are putting this family through right now, and to put to them the responsibility of killing family members, because I think anyone who knows this family and the interaction that they have with these family members that have been part of their lives for, some 34 years. Hey, Katie.
Yeah.
I
raised
can't
them in
think
the
of
house.
any crueler. I can't think of any crueler abuse, and they know it. Otherwise, why would they give them a link to mental health aid? Like
it's setting it up. They want H5N1 to be the next COVID, and this is how they have to start.
It's not going to be. We're going to stop it here. It's not going to be. This isn't going to be another pandemic because we're going to stop it as the people. We can show that natural immunity can win, and we're going to protect our farmers.
And our people as a result.
And our people. Sorry. Yeah, I'm animal. I'm just like, I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I'm going to put up the links again when this is over. But Carrie, Katie, thank you very much. We'll be in touch and I'll be following it. And if there's anything, you've got my number, both of you. So we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much. And thanks to your audience. They look like a well-informed, great group of people that are going to make the difference here. So together we will do this.
We will definitely put it on blast, and everybody can snip and clip and share segments. I know one segment in particular, which I'll be posting later.
Thanks you.
So much. Thanks, everybody.
All right, have a good day. Bye. I'm going to segue briefly, just a little palate cleanse. Where was our visit to the ostrich farm? Here, this was me back in younger days.
Oh my gosh!
That was after it bit me. Actually, it bit. There.
Did you do that?
That's an emu. That's
why. Oh, okay, we gotta go. We're out of here.
We're leaving without us.
I think that was an emu.
Later, man.
That's an ostrich. There you
go. Oh yeah! Look at that! Oh my god!
That thing would disembowel me if it was given the opportunity.
What do you have to say? Oh my gosh.
All right. That, by the way, it didn't like my breath, and when it shook its head, fluid came out of its mouth into my face. That was years ago. People, don't test me for avian flu. Atrocious. It's atrocious.